For 10 years, I watched my family celebrate life without me. Every summer, social media filled with reunion photos, matching shirts, backyard games, smiling cousins crowded around picnic tables while my parents gave speeches about family sticking together. My name was never included. At first, I thought the pain would fade with time. It didn't. It settled quietly into my chest and stayed there. The worst part wasn't even the exclusion itself. It was how normal everyone acted about it, as if removing me from the family had become routine, like I had slowly disappeared and nobody noticed. This year, curiosity got the better of me. I drove past the park where the reunion was being held. I told myself I just wanted closure. One quick look, then I'd leave. But the second my car slowed near the entrance, my sister spotted me. Her voice carried across the crowd instantly. "Get out. You're not family." The laughter that followed hit harder than the words. People turned to stare. Some looked uncomfortable. Others looked entertained. And suddenly, I wasn't 34 anymore. I was 16 again, standing awkwardly at the edge of every room, trying to earn love that always seemed reserved for someone else. I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I just drove away. But life has a strange sense of timing. Because after 10 years of silence, my family finally came looking for me. 3 days later, my gate buzzer sounded early Tuesday morning. I glanced at the security monitor casually, expecting a delivery. Instead, I froze. My parents stood outside the gates, my sister beside them, 2 cousins lingering awkwardly behind. For a second, I genuinely thought I was imagining it. They hadn't visited me once in a decade. Now they stood outside my home like nervous strangers. I opened the gate remotely and watched them slowly walk toward the front entrance of my house, the same house they once said someone like me could never afford. My mansion rose behind me in clean white stone and glass, sunlight pouring across the marble steps. When I opened the front door, they stopped talking immediately. I watched their expressions shift as they stepped inside. The chandelier, the staircase, the artwork, the quiet elegance of a life I had built entirely on my own. Their eyes moved across the room searching for explanations, for loopholes, for some hidden reason why I had succeeded without them. But there wasn't one. I leaned calmly against the doorway. "Can I help you?" My mother cleared her throat first. "Natalie, we thought it was time we visited." Visited, as if 10 years had been a scheduling conflict. I folded my arms. "The last time I saw you, I was told I wasn't family." Dad sighed immediately. "You're making it sound worse than it was." I almost laughed. "Am I?" Nobody answered. My sister tried next, her voice suddenly softer than I'd ever heard it. "We didn't mean it like that." I looked at her carefully. "Then how exactly did you mean it?" Silence, heavy and uncomfortable. For years I dreamed about moments like this. I imagined confronting them with anger, making them feel what I felt. But standing there, I realized something surprising. I wasn't angry anymore. I was simply done. I stepped aside and motioned toward the living room. "Come in." Relief washed across their faces instantly. They walked inside slowly, taking everything in. I could practically hear the calculations happening behind their eyes. How much was the house worth? How successful was I really? How wrong had they been about me? We sat in the living room awkwardly. Nobody seemed to know how to begin. Finally, my father spoke. "We've had some financial setbacks." There it was, the truth, not love, not regret, need. I nodded slowly. "And you came here because—" My mother looked down at her hands. "We thought maybe you could help." Of course, after 10 years of exclusion, silence, humiliation, and rejection, now I mattered, because I had something useful. I stood and walked toward the dining room table. Inside one drawer sat a leather folder filled with contracts, ownership papers, and business documents. I placed it gently on the table and opened it. Their expressions changed instantly. Confusion, shock, then disbelief. "This house," I said calmly, "the companies attached to it, the investments, the properties, they're all mine." My sister stared at the paperwork like it physically hurt her. Dad shifted uncomfortably. Mom whispered, "We didn't know." I met her eyes. "You never asked." The room went silent again. But this silence felt different. Not powerful, not proud. Just uncomfortable truth finally settling into place. For years they treated me like the least important person in the family. The extra seat, the forgotten daughter, the inconvenience. Meanwhile, I had quietly built a life beyond anything they imagined possible. Without their support, without their approval, without their invitations. My sister finally leaned forward. "You've clearly done well. Isn't this what family is for? Helping each other?" I smiled softly. "That's interesting." "What is?" "You only remember I'm family when you need something." Her face tightened immediately. Dad rubbed his forehead. "We made mistakes, Natalie, but families move forward." "No," I said gently. "Healthy families move forward. Ours erased me." Nobody argued with that. Because they couldn't. Every birthday ignored. Every holiday left unanswered. Every reunion where my name was deliberately excluded. They remembered all of it. And now, for the first time, they had to sit inside the consequences of those choices. Mom's eyes filled with tears. "We thought you didn't care anymore." I looked around my home quietly. For years I cared too much. That answer seemed to hit hardest. Because it was true. I had spent most of my 20s trying to understand why I wasn't enough for them. Why love inside my family always felt conditional. Why I had to earn basic kindness while everyone else received it freely. Eventually, I stopped asking. Instead, I built something better, a peaceful life, a successful career, friendships that felt more genuine than blood ever had. I built stability, confidence, freedom. And slowly, the ache that once controlled me turned into distance. Not bitterness. Distance. My father spoke again, more quietly this time. "So you're really not going to help us?" I thought about that question carefully. Years ago, I would have said yes immediately. I would have emptied savings accounts trying to buy love, trying to finally belong. But standing there now, I realized something important. Helping them financially wouldn't heal anything emotionally. It would only restart the same cycle. They needed rescue. I needed peace. Those were not the same thing. "I hope things work out for you," I said honestly. "But I'm not carrying this family anymore." My sister's expression hardened instantly. "So that's it? You're just abandoning us?" The irony almost stunned me. I looked at her calmly. "You abandoned me first." The room fell completely silent. Nobody had a response to that, because there wasn't one. Eventually, they stood to leave. No hugs, no dramatic apology, no magical reconciliation, just uncomfortable acceptance. As they reached the front door, my mother paused. For a moment, she looked like she wanted to say something meaningful, something healing. Instead, she whispered, "I wish things had been different." I nodded slowly. "So do I." Then they walked out into the afternoon sunlight, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel rejected watching them leave. I felt free. That evening, I poured myself a glass of wine and stepped onto the balcony overlooking the city. The skyline shimmered beneath the night sky, calm, steady, beautiful. Somewhere across town, my family was probably sitting together trying to understand how everything had changed so completely. But the truth was, everything hadn't changed. I had. I was no longer the girl waiting outside locked emotional doors hoping someone would let her in. I stopped begging for a seat at their table, and instead, I built my own, bigger, stronger, filled with peace instead of approval. And standing there beneath the city lights, I realized something that took me 10 years to learn. Healing doesn't always come from reconciliation. Sometimes it comes from finally choosing yourself, quietly, completely, without apology.